So over the weekend, I did see this trending. Oftentimes people draw comparisons between the old Pixar that we remember nostalgically, that we grew up with, and the new Pixar. And actually, even the new Pixar is the old Pixar. They're trying to correct course in-house right now, following the failure of several films, including especially Turning Red, which came out in 2022. This viral tweet compared a still of the family in The Incredibles, an iconic franchise, to the chosen family of Turning Red. A bunch of children in this awful Cal Arts style making exaggerated expressions compared to this wholesome white family smiling together. And they ask what happened to Pixar. It's pretty obvious what happened to Pixar.
So I won't give away too much, but we pre-recorded an episode of The Culture War for Friday, and Tom Bancroft, the guest who was on, he was taught, because he was like one of the original Cal Arts, like he was there at the beginning, and I was like, how's Cal Arts different now than it was then? He goes, well, it's not the same thing. Like it didn't carry a tenor about it didn't have a style in the same way. But it was very, very interesting to hear him talk about animation.
Well, a bigger problem with the Cal Arts style, aside from just how it looks, is that it's associated with a certain style of storytelling.
And that was kind of his point.
And the dialogue.
He worked for Disney in its heyday, and he's a religious man, and eventually left. He gives his own story. You'll hear it on that episode, so I won't give that away. But he animated Mushu and Mulan.
Oh, cool.
Very cool.
Nice. So one of the most viral responses to this question of what happened to Pixar is claimed white people not understanding Turning Red because it's about an inherently non-white experience, which really confused me because my impression of Turning Red, admittedly not having watched it myself, is that it was an allegory for a girl hitting puberty and getting her period. And her period in the movie is personified by this anthropomorphic, gigantic red panda that follows her around school. And I was like, okay, I guess puberty is an inherently non-white experience. I didn't know that. Thanks for the memo. But then I read further, and this person replied saying the idea that white people don't understand generational trauma and overprotective parents, I guess these are other themes in the movie, the original poster said they don't. White people don't ever experience generational trauma or strict parents. That's not a thing that white people understand.
Just look, these types of posts are designed to make you angry.
It's
to make
rage
people
bait.
angry.
It's rage bait.
Into rage bait.
But then it kind of opened up the opportunity to point out, is the experience of The Incredibles something that is an inherently white experience that non-white viewers can never understand? Is the concept of an intact family unit something that a black viewer, for instance, wouldn't understand because of their lived experience? Does this not represent them as a group?
Well, the problem is whatever, if everybody wants to go back and forth with their rage baiting to each other, is that the point is you should treat your viewers with a little bit more faith that they're going to be able to understand what you meant from your story without it having to be about someone's lived experience. I watch Batman, and having never been a billionaire nor a superhero, a vigilante, I can still identify with the themes of Batman. I can identify and understand why it's important to tell stories about trauma, the loss of family at a young age, what it does to a person who's driven to behave a certain way or envelop like a certain persona to combat something like a dangerous city. Like, those aren't themes that should be only Jeff Bezos should be able to understand what it's like to be Batman. That's stupid, and it's ridiculous to pretend as if people are that way. But this is a conversation that comes up every couple of months when people want to fight about it on X. But that's because people for the last 10 to 15 years made identity such a center point and such a central focus of so much storytelling.
There's so many intellectually dishonest responses to the conversation about representation, because they're like, Me feeling represented by Monsters Inc. because I'm a monster working at a monster factory. Like, obviously there are elements to the story that are relatable to humans. That's the point of it isn't how they look. That's kind of what we're getting at. But okay, according to
like, if that was true, the
synopsis,
Kardashians wouldn't be as popular as they are because like you, I, nor probably anybody in this chat has anything in common with the Kardashians or their lived experience, yet people tune in droves to watch the dysfunction.
In Turning Red, Mei Lee, the protagonist, is a confident, dorky 13-year-old torn between staying her mother's dutiful daughter and the chaos of adolescence. And as if changes to her interests, relationships, and body weren't enough, whenever she gets too excited, which for a teenager is practically always, she poofs into a giant red panda. They say that toward the end of the movie, the huge, like, end to this girl's character arc is that she twerks at her mother in defiance. She twerks to eschew the overprotective, her overprotective mother's authority. She twerks at her.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, and it's also reportedly about themes of puberty, shame, racism, and belonging, being that the protagonist is Asian.
So again, puberty is something that everybody can understand. What were the other ones? Belonging,
shame, racism, and belonging.
So pretty much all of those are universal unless you take the idea of the annoying elitist ivory tower definition of racism, which is that somebody like you or I can't experience it because we're white and we, I guess, have the institutional power
because
that I have none of.
Zoran Mamdani came to school with smelly lunch, and people made fun of him for eating his smelly lunch with his hands. And
but
that's racist.
But everything else in that list are concepts that everybody can understand.
So back in 2022, it was a very different time, and this
really
was a story that kind of got memory hold. A reviewer for Turning Red named Sean O'Connell became the target of internet fury after this is what he had to say about the movie. Some Pixar films are made for a universal audience. Turning Red is not. The target audience for this one feels very specific and very narrow. If you're in it, this might work well for you. I am not in it. This was exhausting. By rooting Turning Red very specifically in the Asian community of Toronto. The film legitimately feels like it was made for Domei Shi, the director's, friends and immediate family members, which is fine but a tad limiting in its scope. The most measured take he could possibly offer that doesn't just baselessly glaze the movie for breaking glass ceilings, which it was, praised at the time by, you know, the New York Times for the first Asian director of an animated Pixar film. That was like a huge deal. That was like this first Asian female director of a Pixar movie.
Either society has changed in movies like Crazy Rich Asians, which did extremely well and were lauded by both fans and critics, happened, and that's the reality we live in now, or nothing's changed and I imagined that movie and it never happened.
Well, as it stands currently, Turning Red has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics, but only 67% from the audience. But Sean O'Connell's very middle-of-the-road take, basically just admitting that this movie isn't made for him, prompted headlines like this: "Critics be warned, Turning Red is defiantly Asian and female, and there's more to come." Some commentators belonging to the prime demographic find they're unable to appreciate its non-male, non-white protagonists. And another that said white reviewers don't need to see themselves in Pixar's Turning Red. And eventually, of course, because this was back in 2022, it was like a different country, Sean O'Connell responded to all of this backlash he was receiving with an apology.
Of course.
He said, "I'm genuinely sorry for my Turning Red review. Thank you to everyone who has reached out with criticism, no matter how harsh. It is clear that I didn't engage nearly enough with the movie, nor did I explain my point of view well at all. I really appreciate your feedback."
He explained it just fine. It's just that they didn't like what his explanation said.
They were just like, "It's not for you, you pasty white man."
Yep.
But, you know, I think it's evident from at least unconfirmed reports behind the scenes that Pixar is trying to correct how they tell stories, and they realized that they made several missteps.
Well, they've been in free fall since John Lasseter left.
Their recent success was Inside Out 2, obviously. But they need to compound on that and stop making stories for decidedly a very, very small portion of the demographic they're targeting.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, storytelling as a whole is like should be getting away from those. Look, at least on the big screen, right? Those movies actually do perfectly well. Maybe not as a Pixar animated movie, but telling that type of story as a mid-budget movie that's not expected to make $1 billion, like hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office is perfectly fine. People say that Hollywood has no new ideas. That's actually not true. Hollywood puts out tons of new movies and new ideas every year. It's just that nobody goes to see them. There was some Margot Robbie, Colin Farrell movie that came out like a month ago that I actually thought it was like a romantic fantasy film. And it looked mildly interesting. It got bad reviews.
It had beautiful in the
it's
title.
like a something beautiful journey or something like that. Hollywood tries new stuff all the time. Nobody goes to see it. The difference is people want some type of large scale change in the type of blockbuster movies they make. But when they do that, nobody goes to see them.
Well, Disney just
look. Sinners did extremely well this year. I'm guessing that in America, most people didn't necessarily identify with the characters in Sinners, but that didn't mean the movie wasn't successful because Ryan Coogler knows how to tell a story.
I wanted to mention that it was reported a few days ago Disney acquired the rights to an IP called Impossible Creatures. I think it's based on a novel by Catherine Rundell, and they're going to adapt these books into a series, I believe.
Okay.
It was, I don't know, I think last week that they reported that they won an auction to acquire the rights to Impossible Creatures. So they're taking a bet on this, and they're trying to like at least acquire original IP that can then be recycled into derivative slop for decades to come.
Look, this movie came out the same year as Lightyear, and nobody liked that movie either.
I think maybe a lot of these studios are learning from the success of K-pop Demon Hunters.
I mean, that's the point I made when I did the Q&A episode of this. I said, like, eventually they will realize that the superhero movies are out. It's going to be video game adaptations when they're done well. Anime and manga is going to be how they make their money again in the future. But it's going to be a slow process. And look, nobody wants the live action versions of this stuff. Like, they just don't. One Piece is like the one exception where people really like that live action One Piece series on Netflix. I think I just saw like an advertisement for season 2, but that's the exception and not the rule. And the reason they like anime is that it has a distinctly non-Western style of storytelling that will just be infected into whatever they make here in America anyways. Like, copying the art style doesn't make it what people like about it.
Well, isn't K-pop Demon Hunters, I'm not sure if this is true, but I think I heard that it's like the most popular movie in Netflix history.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is insane. I thought it was Knives Out.
No, it passed what was the one that was ahead of it? I forget what it was.
Might have been something that they licensed.
It might have been. I don't remember which one. No, it was. It was a Netflix movie that was number one. I don't remember which one it was. But yeah, it's the most It's the most viewed thing on Netflix ever. So
pretty cool.
Sony is still upset about that one.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.